What's up, basketball coaches, players, and fans? Welcome to the Pass First podcast, where we share our knowledge of the game. My name is Alex Engel, and I'm here with my partner, Augie Johnston. We hope that you're able to take something away from today's episode that'll help you on your basketball journey. So today, we have a special guest, Joel Awich, on the show. He is playing currently in France, and he's been playing over in Europe for a few years now. So we're going to learn from him about the style of play over in Europe and how it differs from the U.S., both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side. If you've been enjoying these episodes and following us on YouTube, Spotify, or iTunes, please make sure to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get right into today's episode. All right, welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. As I said on the intro, we have special guest Joel Awich here with us today. He's actually calling in from France. So first off, Joel, thank you for joining us. And then secondly, let's get a little background on you so the people know who you are. And yeah, just give us like a 1 to 2 minute background on yourself.
Thanks, Alex. And Augie, thanks for having me. So like you said, my name is Joel Awich. Originally from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and then made my way to Switzerland when I was like 8 years old. And then I moved to Minnesota when I was 13 due to family reasons. And that's where I really started playing basketball in the eighth grade. Um, my mom, she used to play on the Kenyan national team. And so she's the one who kind of introduced me to the sport of basketball. And I played at Cleveland Middle School. That was my first real organized basketball process, and then moved up to Tartan High School in Oakdale, Minnesota. And then I played a lot of AAU in the summers there, and that's how I got noticed and finally was able to get a scholarship to play at California Polytechnic State University. Um, and after 5 years, I was lucky enough to, get the opportunity to come to France, and that's where I'm playing right now. I'm playing in France in the third division.
Awesome. And when you were getting recruited to Poly, did you have a lot of other offers or teams looking at you? If I remember correctly, you signed pretty late. Um, so was that like, were there a lot of other options, or was that kind of one of the only ones at that time?
Uh, outside of Poly, I remember. I think it was Rhode Island was my other only Division One offer, but they wanted me to go the prep school route first. So fortunately, when I was making my decision on which school to visit first, I chose Cal Poly to visit first. And if you ever been to San Luis Obispo, I mean, you know that I would have been pretty crazy to choose Rhode Island over Cal Poly. So the decision was pretty finalized there. But other than that, it was just like a bunch of other like Division twos and in in the Midwest area because I was playing in Minnesota, so there was a lot of like teams in there are schools in Iowa, Wisconsin, even Minnesota. A lot of D2s there that wanted me, but I'm glad I went with Cal Poly.
I got a quick question. So you said that you got noticed on the AAU circuit, and
Mhm.
like exactly how did that work? Were you going to tournaments, and then like there was college coaches there, and they were noticing you? Like how did you officially get reached out to by some of these schools?
Yeah, so I think for like the first month of AAU, I don't know how it is now, but back in the day, like May, I think it was May and June, maybe you probably play in these tournaments, but you don't get to see a lot of these coaches because they're still with their schools, like doing spring training and stuff like that. But once it gets to like July, that's when you actually get to see some of these coaches like on the sideline, stuff like that. And I remember, I think it was we had a tournament in Anaheim. I was playing for Minnesota Pump and Run, so we were doing all the Adidas circuit
Oh wow.
tournaments. Um, so I think the tournament in Anaheim, uh, I did pretty well in that one. I think we made like Elite Eight that tournament. So after that tournament, my coach was like, "Hey, like, these the few schools that want to talk to you, especially Cal Poly. Cal Poly's been hitting me up about you. So if you have a chance, just like give them a call." Um, yeah, I don't know how AAU is done today, but it was pretty. July, I would say, is how a lot of people get noticed because that's when coaches can actually come to the tournaments and see you, you know, display your talents and stuff. So
Yeah, it sounds like you were on a pretty high level AAU program, so that's pretty helpful.
yeah.
Would you say that, with that process, and I guess I'm considering comparing it to the fact that now, you've been playing pro for a while, and you were able to go play in Afrobasket, and we're going to get to that later in the episode. But would you consider yourself kind of like a late bloomer with basketball, considering where you are now?
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who's been there from the start will tell you that me being here right now playing professional was definitely not something they would have envisioned, let alone myself. I definitely would not have envisioned playing professional. Uh, when you like in so when I was in Switzerland, um, basketball wasn't like that big of a sport. Like the main sport in Europe is soccer. So I used to play a little bit of that just for fun, but I never really thought of basketball until I came to the States. So um, my mom had to really work a lot with me and my sister to like get our fundamentals and stuff like that. And obviously, like in the eighth grade, a lot of kids have already like developed, so playing catch up at such a late age, um, it definitely can get a little frustrating sometimes. But I'm glad that I stuck with it. And I remember my high school coach told me that like I was very raw skill wise, but he saw a lot of potential in me, and that's why he allowed me to make the team in high school. And they worked with me. They were very patient with me, so that was nice.
That's good. It's always good to have a coach that can see that and wants, believes in you and thinks, okay, we can work with you and find something, that diamond in the rough. So when you now like that, you look at it, what would you say, what would you attribute to your success? Like, why have you been able to be successful? Because a lot of kids, you know, they're late bloomers, but they miss their window. Like they don't get that opportunity. Maybe they were a late bloomer, but it was too late, or they just never really developed quite enough into being a player that could go play in college at all, or definitely professionally. So, what do you think was able to help you become to the success you are now?
Uh, Honestly, uh, I'll just attribute it to um, the athleticism that God gave me. Um, that's something that cannot be taught. But like if you, I'm not calling myself like an elite athlete or anything like that. It's just that, especially in high school, like I was like maturing faster than some of my teammates. I think I was dunking in like ninth grade, which is like pretty rare, I'd say. So, um, even though I couldn't like dribble a basketball, the fact that I could dunk definitely, was turning some heads. And I think that athleticism definitely kept me, in the loop long enough for me to actually like learn and play this game the right way.
Mm. And I'm gonna say, even though you won't say it, I'll say you are an elite athlete. I've seen you play before, so I think Augie and I can agree that we've seen how you can play, and I have definitely understand that. But yeah, I think that is a factor that some people maybe overlook, is if you have that high level athleticism, even if you don't have the skills, you can develop the skills. And I think that's what a lot of coaches look at. You see, like in the NBA, they draft a lot on potential. Like, oh, he's 6'10", and with a 36-inch vert, oh, okay, he can just rebound and block shots. Maybe we can work with him and turn him into an offensive threat as well. So it sounds like that, is what they did with you, and it obviously worked. So,
Yeah.
okay, so how did you get over to France initially? Like, what was that process after you got done playing at Cal Poly?
So if you remember Paul Fortier, he was the associate head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So he had actually played in France, and he's like a celebrity out here. Um, but So he had reached out to me after the season was over, and he had told me about this showcase that one of his friends was running in was it Rockford, Illinois. So I was pretty like skeptical because I obviously didn't know I was going to stay, like all this stuff. And then I remembered I had a friend who lived in Chicago, so that wasn't too far. Um, I reached out to him and I asked him about the showcase, and he was like, "Yeah, like you can come stay with us, like that's cool." So I went to the showcase. Uh, and I did fairly well. And then like I didn't like think anything of it, to be honest with you. I thought it was just like a showcase like all others. And like a couple of weeks later, 40's friend like calls me and he's like, hey, like, there's this team that would like to sign you for in France. And I'm like, what? And I was pretty excited because I mean, like I said, I didn't envision myself playing pro basketball in the beginning. So um, yeah, and then I called Fortier and I'm like, wait, so like your friend just called me. He's like, oh yeah, he's an agent, by the way. And so yeah, so I signed with him. His friend is an agent, and he was able to get me to France that way.
Hmm.
So big shout out to Fortier. He got me my first professional stint.
That's cool. That's it's nice that to see that coaches, doing that type of connection, because some coaches, you play for them and they say thanks, have a great life, and that's about it. And then you have some other coaches that they try and take care of you afterwards, and that's always cool to see. So Og, I don't know if you were going to add something. Looks like you had something to say.
Well, I was going to kind of take a step back real quick. And this is something that I like to do with a lot of our guests. But, you have a little bit of a Cinderella story, a little bit of an underdog story. So what kind of stats? Now, this is the question I like to ask. What kind of stats were you putting up in high school and then in college? Because it just people don't understand that you can go all the way to the professional level without having crazy monster stats. And then some people will have monster stats in high school and don't even get to college. So I don't know. It's just interesting for me to know. So what kind of numbers do you guys putting up?
I think in high school, my senior year, because I only played varsity my senior year, and that's only really when they like keep track of like stats. Um, I think I was maybe averaging like 9 points a game, uh, close to like 10 rebounds, and then but I think this I was leading the conference in blocks by like a mile. On I can't remember the thing, but blocks was definitely my thing in high school. Um,
Yeah. So
but yeah,
almost a
it
double
wasn't anything
double.
crazy.
Almost
Yeah.
a double double. Yeah. So it's not that much points maybe, but still a double double is pretty and leading the league in blocks. Those are good stats. What about college?
College, I think it kept like improving every year. I probably started at around like 4 points a game my redshirt freshman year. Maybe moved up to like 6 points a game my junior year. I think my senior year I did get hurt. I had like a ankle injury that kept me sidelined for a little bit, but I think I was probably at like just under 10 points or so and maybe like 6 or 7 rebounds a game. So
Cool. Cool. And what about in France?
uh,
What's like your best
right
season so
now.
far?
Right now, actually, is my best season. Uh, I'm averaging maybe like 15 points, like just under 8 rebounds a game.
Nice.
Um, yeah, but there's still some time left. I can still get that rebounding title. I think I'm in third or fourth in rebounding in the league right now. So uh, with a couple good games, I think I should get that for the year.
Cool. All right. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. So now that we're actually speaking of France, I was going to ask, how does the game differ over there? I mean, that's kind of one of the main things we wanted to talk about today. Is specifically right now, how does the offensive side of the game differ compared to the U.S., like the style of play?
Um, in France, it's let's see. Something that I would say is very different, not really like a style of play, but I would say like rule wise. So FIBA doesn't allow you to call timeouts when the ball is live. So you know how like in college when you're like trapped or something, you can like call a quick timeout. You
Mm.
can't do that in only the coaches can call timeouts. And it's usually after like a dead ball or something that they grant it to you anyway. But as far as like a style of play, I would compare it mostly the division that I'm in. It's more like a mid-major college basketball, I would say, kind of like how we played at Cal Poly. There's not much difference. Like everyone's like physical, and obviously they don't have like the defensive three that the NBA has. So you can stay in there and take charges and stuff. So it is very hard to score in Europe, I would say, because of that. Like the defensive three is not there. So there's not a lot of like dunks and stuff like that you see in the NBA.
Mm.
Um, I would say there's a lot in my league. There's a lot less 3-point shooters. There's more of it's more like reversing the ball to get like a lot of stuff inside. I would say they play a lot inside here.
Okay, so a little more post play.
Are you playing the 4, the 5, the 3? What position?
They got me at the 4 right now, with sometimes playing the 3, and then sometimes playing the 5 if our bigs are in trouble, but mainly the 4.
Are you guys running a lot of like 5 out stuff spacing wise, or 4 out 1 in, or 3 out and 2 bigs in? What's the spacing like on most of your guys' stuff out there?
Most of our team runs a lot of 4 out 1 in. Um, we we have a bigger 3 guard, so he sometimes goes inside, and like we keep the 5 out too. Like me and the 5, we keep him out. But most of our stuff is 4 out 1 in. But there are a lot of teams that have like bigger, like actual like bigs, so they do play like the 3 out 2 in kind of style, which in this league is kind of um, I don't want to say it's a disadvantage, but it definitely shows because like when you have a say like if you have a team like us like that can play 4 out 1 in, like you can attack those bigs pretty easily. So yeah, it's better to have like a mobile 4 and like a true center in this division for sure.
And I just got to ask one more question. So I'm guessing this is Europe. So are you guys running a lot of ball screens? Are you setting a ball screen almost every single time down the floor? Or are you guys, no, we don't run ball screens?
Yeah, a lot of ball screens.
Yeah.
A lot of ball screens, and that's something that I had to adjust to personally. I mean, we did a lot of like pick and pop stuff at Poly, but it's like here it's especially since it's a shorter shot clock. I feel like we set way too many like ball screens, um, and um, especially like one thing here that I think is different to come back to your difference in offense is a lot of the bigs instead of like running to the basket if they're the first big they'll like stop at like the 3-point line for like a drag screen. And I never
Mhm.
understood that. Like, like if you're out in transition, 2 points is 2 points. You want to get it easy too. Um, but yeah, it's like they always want to like stop and set that drag screen. It can be like kind of frustrating because then you stop in the transition right there. Um, but yeah, that's definitely actually a big difference that I noticed out here.
It's
A lot
interesting
of
about that.
screen.
Yeah, that's interesting about that drag screen.
Is that, I'm guessing you're saying like opposing to them being a rim runner, right? And going straight to the paint.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other like offensive, or I guess, are there any new offensive concepts that you've learned since you've been out there that it's just something that was a lot different from here? Obviously, the drag screen could be one of them, but is there anything that's just like brand new? Like I've never even seen this before in the U.S.
Um, I'm trying to think. Not that I haven't seen it, I just didn't see it a lot in college. But
Mhm.
like like when a guard is like a 2-man game on the strong side, and he's just able to just pass it all the way to the opposite corner.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty tough. I never really saw that in college, but, so it's definitely like a shock to me. 'Cause that's a tough pass, like
Hmm.
on the move, like usually offhand, sometimes like all the way to the opposite corner. Because in this league, I don't know how it is in the rest of Europe, but in this league, like opposite help usually comes from the opposite. So that usually leaves that guy wide open. And so just like we work on that pass sometimes in practice, but like our guards don't have that kind of like maybe like 1 out of 3 times they'll get it right. But some of the guards in this league are actually able to do that. I think that's very impressive.
Just to clarify, are you saying there's a ball screen happening on, let's say, the right side of the floor, and they're coming off that ball screen and hitting the guy in the opposite corner?
Hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a long pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're doing that when they get into the paint, right? They get into the paint,
Yeah.
draw a little bit of help, and that's like an emphasis to look for that corner guy.
Hmm.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to take a look at that. That's interesting.
Okay, so what about the flip side now? So we talked offense. What about the defensive side? Is there anything that's like real different out there defensively compared to what you played growing up?
Um, there's not a lot that um, I will say I'm not used to being like trapped like down low. I think um, that's very different for me. And now even when I like catch the ball, it's kind of like everyone is just looking at you, ready to help. Because a lot of the times, like I usually win like most of my matchups now. One thing, shout out to Jeremy, the video editor. He used to tell me like on Synergy, like weakest or one of my weaknesses was ISO. So I really worked on that, and now I'm fairly good in the ISO one on one. So a lot of times when I catch the ball, like people are just like ready to help and stuff like that. Um, but defensively, I would say there's not much that changes. Um, if you want to compare it to the NBA, like I said, there's no defensive three, so you can just stay in there and help with the charges and stuff. But defensively, there's nothing that like changes. Like we can still play zone and stuff, everything.
Well, let me ask you this then. So, how do you guys guard ball screens? What are the different
Um,
ways?
so it depends on who's handling the ball. Um, most of the times in this league, there's not a lot of people that will just stop and shoot behind the screen. So we go under on a lot of those.
Oh wow.
Um, but if it's someone that we know is dangerous, like a dangerous passer, we'll aggress them. We'll probably like hedge it or like trap it. Um, but it just depends on who handles the ball, really. But most of the time, we just like do like a flat hedge, and then just kind of the big just kind of stays on the same level with his guy, but it's kind of like deterring any like passes. But yeah, most of the time it's just like a flat hedge.
Oh, interesting. I thought for sure you guys would be icing ball screens. I feel like that's a European thing where you kind of force the dribbler to go away from the screen. You ever seen that one?
Yeah, we do that on the wings. We do that on the wings.
Got you.
Especially if it's like a strong side action, we love to bring him back to that same side. But if it's like something that's like at the top of the key, it's kind of hard to ice because, especially in our league, like the bigs aren't like the best with communication. Like, um, so it's kind of hard to ice it at the top of the key.
Yeah.
But we do that on the wing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, to say top of the key, you can't really because I mean, when you're icing it, you have to push them one way or the other. And top of the key, you can go either way. So if you let them push them one way, you're just pushing them down the middle. Um,
Yeah.
so okay, so now I've heard before, and I don't know if Augie you've heard this too, but that a lot of the players in Europe maybe aren't necessarily as athletic as you see in the States, but their skill sets are better. Like they can, like you said, pass with both hands, they can shoot it, they can dribble it. Do you find that to be true overall, or do you think that's like over exaggerated?
No, it's very true. Fundamentally, because our practices, like if we have, say we only have one game that week, we'll do like this week actually. I think we'll probably do it tomorrow. We start our Mondays off with a lot of like ball handling and shooting, just to get kind of like a feel for the ball and work on some stuff. And then Tuesdays we'll probably get in some weights and stuff like that. But then we do more shooting. So we do a lot of shooting. Um, and then fundamentally, like a lot of the guards here, I don't know. I think it's kind of weird, but they're very they rely a lot on like the systems, which is very different than in the States where like you have a play, but if you can like kind of go away from it, like you do that. So I think that's a true testament to just like the fundamentals. Like they really try and like check every box before like moving on to the next thing kind of thing. Um, which I think it can be good, but it can be kind of a disadvantage at times. But as far as like fundamentally sound, they're very like fundamentally sound. Yeah,
Mm. Do you
not
find
a
that?
lot of not a lot of like flashy stuff like you find in the States.
Okay. Yeah, and I've always heard like not as much ISO type of play either, which would tie into your systems that you were talking about. And that kind of goes into actually my next question is: have you been around many of like the youth leagues or just youth development stuff since you've been out there? And if so, what is that like again comparing it to back home here in the States?
Um, yeah. So I've actually um a lot of our clubs like they have youth programs and stuff. So I've been around a few practices, and let me tell you, it's like nothing you'd even imagine. It's so like here, I think one time they were maybe maybe like third graders, I want to say, and their coach had them like dribbling a basketball while they were like kicking a soccer ball. So it was like,
That looks
and
like
so
one
they
of those.
were, yeah, they were like, so they were standing in a circle, right? And they were like passing each other the soccer ball while they were like dribbling it. And I was like, that's actually pretty interesting. I mean, I kind of like hand-eye coordination kind of thing, I want to
Yeah.
say. Um, and I've seen a lot of things like that where they incorporate like multiple things. You know how we do like maybe like you dribble a basketball and you like kind of play with like a tennis ball at the same time.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, they do that sometimes, but the soccer thing was definitely the most interesting thing I've seen. Oh yeah.
Like that what you just described remind me of like when you're on I don't know, social media or YouTube or Instagram, and you see like the video come up of like somebody posting like, what is this drill, and you see some guy mowing the lawn while they're dribbling a ball or something, and you're like, what are you doing? But I guess, I mean, I don't know, maybe there is some benefit to that, but that is a pretty interesting one, kicking a soccer ball at the same time as dribbling a basketball.
Well, in Europe, those kids, you probably that was the only way they can convince them to play basketball. They're like, "Oh, well, we'll kick a soccer ball too." Oh, okay, yeah. They love soccer so much over there, but that's funny, yeah.
Okay. Um, well, now let's shift. So I know you just got done playing in Afrobasket, and I don't, I'm not going to sit here and say I know a ton about it, but I know a little bit. But I don't know if many people that watch or listen know even what that is. So can you first tell the viewers what it is, and then just tell us about the experience in general, and how it went for you as an individual as well.
Okay. So Afrobasket is basically just like it's like a big tournament that involves all the African countries that qualify. So if you think about it, kind of like in America, they have the America where they just play like a bunch of teams that are in the Americas, and they have like Eurobasket for all the teams that play in Eurobasket, obviously. So it's the same thing. So it's just all the African countries. They have, I think, maybe three window qualifiers. And if you qualify for Afrobasket, then you also qualify for the qualifiers to play in the Olympics later down the road. So we've actually qualified um, to play for a chance to play in the World Cup in 2023, I want to say. Um, so I play for Team Kenya, and this year was actually I was supposed to head over there in November, but because France has travel restriction rules because of COVID, and so in November I still didn't have like my work visa. It wasn't ready yet, so I wasn't able to join the team then. But fortunately, they won one game, and so we just needed one game in February to qualify for AfroBasket. And like the experience was it was it was crazy. I would almost compare it to like winning the Big West. It's just like the feeling of just like winning like a big game, like a big tournament. Um, but basically, what it is you play 3 games in 3 days, right? Um, so there's a this was just like the group stages. So there's 4 teams in the group, obviously, and you play each team once. And our group happened to be, us, Kenya, Senegal, um, Angola, and Mozambique. Um, and a lot of people don't know this, but I was actually was sidelined the first game. So when I got there, I had a roommate in my hotel room, who was on my team, obviously. And when we got tested the next day for COVID, his test came back positive, but mine came back negative. And so they have to like submit all of that obviously to the federation and stuff. And this was, I want to say, 2 days before the game. This was 2 days before the game. Um, so they had to give me my own room, and they had to isolate both of us for for safety measures. And the day before the game, we get tested again, and I test negative again. Um, and I think he tested negative as well, which was kind of weird. I don't know how you test positive one day and test negative the next, but um, especially because in order to travel to the country, you had to test negative. And once we got to the airport, we got tested, and so I'm guessing he tested negative there. Or they would have just kept him in quarantine in the airport, right?
Hmm.
Um, so so I tested negative the day before. The day of the game, I'm getting ready. Like we were the first game of the tournament, so we were playing I think at like noon. So we were leaving the hotel at around 10 o'clock. Um, I'm getting ready, and I kid you not, literally at like 9:55, I'm about to head out of the door, and I hear a knock on the door. I open it, and it's my coach and team doctor, and they're like, "Listen, uh, FIBA just decided this morning that in order for you to play, you'd have to have two negative tests." And so, and because they had originally cleared me for having the negative test the day before, but I guess that wasn't enough. Um, so I had to stay in the hotel room for another day by myself, just in isolation. But I thought it was, I don't know, I thought it was pretty weird that that happened. It was probably just a coincidence, but I don't know. And then the day after that, I finally was, they finally let me out of the room, and I was able to play, make my debut against Angola, which is like they're a pretty big powerhouse in Afro basket. Um, and that game was kind of crazy. And we kind of went back and forth there at the end, but um, when Tyler hit the shot, I remember before the game we had like talked about like just winning this game and qualifying right then and there because we only needed one win. Um, and when he hit that shot, if you look at the video, like I one thing they didn't have like like when the buzzer like lets you know like shot clock or like end of quarters like it was non-existent. So basically like you just had to be looking at the clock to know kind of how much time was left. So when he hit the shot, if you look at the video, I'm like, all right, let's get back on defense. Like, all right, we gotta stop. But then I see all my teammates like rejoicing, and then I look up at the clock and I'm like triple zeros. Oh, like what? Like like the game's over. Like we won.
Uh-huh.
But no, that was pretty cool. Definitely, it was just an honor and a privilege just to represent like my home country and stuff. So, but the experience in itself was kind of nice. All the teams stayed in the one hotel, obviously like bubble style, kind of like the NBA. Um, we there were like two dining rooms, and they had like I want to say like two teams per dining room, so that we didn't have to like eat all at the same time and stuff like that in case of positive cases. Um, but yeah, everyone was like cool. There was no like bad blood. Like if you'd see someone from a different country like in the hallway, like you just say what's up to them. Like it was pretty nice experience. Can't wait for the real thing in August. Um, so the actual tournament in August is, I think it's probably like win or go home. Um, and I think it's probably over 2 weeks, I want to say, like the end of August into the early September. So yeah.
Okay. And now and I know you said that basically winning that game helped you qualify for and I wasn't 100% sure on this. Did you say that it helped you qualify for Olympic pool play, or
Mhm.
okay? So you're going to be in 20. You said 2023, right? Is that when our next one is? So you'll be in Olympic pool play with, at that time, and that's just like, the same that it is everywhere. Like that's the legit Olympics. There's no other qualifying stuff you have to go through.
Oh, no, no, no. So in 2023, like we have a chance to play to get into the Olympics. So we're
Okay.
gonna, it's yeah. So it's gonna be like kind of like this AfroBasket qualifiers. So we're gonna play for a chance to actually get a bid to play for the Olympics.
Okay, I see. Has and I don't know much about, to be honest, most teams and how they do in the Olympics, other than like the real major powerhouses. Does Kenya go typically to the Olympics?
Ooh, not in basketball. In track, yes. You've probably seen a lot of Kenyans in track, but
Mhm.
um, so actually this us qualifying was like the first time I want to say in like 20, 28 years.
Wow.
So we actually made history, so that was kind of dope. Um, but typically, uh, there's not a lot of Kenyans that play like overseas basketball. So having all of us kind of come together for this event was really big for us, and and kind of when I talked to a lot of the guys on the team, like for them, the goal was to just show that um, through basketball you can like it can take you far basically. Because right now in Kenya, like the culture in basketball, it's not really appreciated as some of the other parts in the world. So I think qualifying for a major tournament like this kind of can shift the narrative about just how like good basketball or in just sports in general can be for you.
Hmm.
Uh,
Awesome. That's cool, man. I hope, obviously I'll be following. I'm sure both of us will, but that would be super cool if you're able to make it to the Olympics. And like you said, I think just representing your own team. I mean, how many people even get to represent their own country? Like it's such a small amount of people. So that's a really cool experience, and I'm happy that you were able to experience that. Um, okay, well, let's get you out of here on this last question, and it's just what's the career like, long term goals here? Do you want to play until you're 45 and be that legend in the professional European leagues, or is it like, hey, I want to keep working and maybe see if I can work my way back over to the US and go like G League or something like that, or is it just like, I want to play until I'm done and then move on to something else?
um, I have thought about the G League route. Um, I think that a lot of these guys out here play overseas just long enough so that they can kind of make it, back home, like you said, like G League route, which I think is really good and a testament to kind of like overseas basketball, how it can be like a really good developmental league outside of the G League, but for me, honestly, right now, I'm 27 now, turning 28 in dang 1 month. What? Um, that's crazy. I'm just thankful for the opportunities that I'm getting, and honestly, like, if I can play for as long as I can, hopefully I stay injury free. That's the goal. I want to play obviously at the highest division I can. Maybe like EuroLeague or whatever it may be. I would love to, just try it out. But for right now, I'm just focusing on um, basically I'm just taking it like season by season. I just want to just improve every single season to kind of move up the ranks, climb up the ranks, and see how far I can go. Yeah, that's the main goal. Just and then after I'm done, I've thought about like coaching or training or something just to stay involved with the game because um, basketball has brought me a lot of opportunities. I've met a lot of people. Obviously, I met you guys through basketball. And so um, I think that giving back through all the years that the game has given to me, I think it's important to give back to the next generation. And so I think coaching probably be the best way to do that. Or even like scouting or skill development, whatever it may be, just staying active with the game.
Awesome. Og, anything you got to add in here before we head out?
Nope, I don't have any other questions. Just want to say thank you for coming on, and yeah, I'll let you close it out, Alex.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks again, Joel. We really appreciate it. And obviously, it's good to see you. Hopefully, you'll be able to come out to California sometime. We'll be able to link up. But for everyone else watching at home, thank you guys for joining in. If you're listening on iTunes, on Spotify, or watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And that's all we got for this week. So thank you so much. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.